Hello, through administrations, Rachel Maddow has roles with Connecticut with influences relative to influences over Connecticut's prosecutors and judges. But this is also demonstrably interstates and people associated with Washington, D.C. a number of ways, and the World Trade Center in Manhattan, New York, a number of ways, and people with Vermont a number of ways, people with Rhode Island a number of ways, with state police forensics names that are increasingly tied to child abusers, leaders of the kids first, forced, and more then and now, because they have roles with different natures of organized crimes against each age of fact treatment nature. Have you seen the elderly homes? The same names were working at the elderly homes. My past neighbor, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, forced, checked, persuaded to predicate acts with police forms, plural, pilots, in ways he doesn't know, even their extended family members off Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, and with people at Central Connecticut State University, involved with a whole bunch of people that planted evidences, involved with predicate acts with like wire crime, mail crimes, and police switching and forging names, and with courts, and lying about what that means or how people should perceive that. There are mass uses of the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. They have their kids involved with child abusers, leaders of kids, and they're playing punk games. They're refusing to identify themselves. They got me begging Judge Napolitano through his YouTube channel because they have wire crime acts and methods. They have fake transcripts, changed transcripts to police transcripts. Whole bunch of police departments involved with people tied to a Ray Cololo's roommate and their roles with a Chet Casper pointed to a building. They locked me in at first. Involved also with some Mendez police, falsified police reports at the Weathersfield Police Department, involved with that building right at the time of the reported murder of Greg Kyler. And Greg Kyler, even if that was made up, people associated with were involved with predicate acts against him and me at the time, and other people. And these are people involved with judges and prosecutors and the former director of the FBI, Robert Lusker, before the World Trade Center attack in that context and since. Also collusions with names next to a body dumping spot of a serial killer with a KKK themed Confederate flag themed bunch with Hartford Hospital, who are also black, white, female judges with officers switching and forging names, refusing to identify themselves legitimately, and with the Latino themed Mendez brothers. It has something to do with their roles with the intelligence all along route of Griswold, Hang Dog, what is it called? All the roads and routes, but Berlin Turnpike. They have roles along the Berlin Turnpike with a whole bunch of people from Weathersfield involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. It has something to do with the roles with that. Chet Casper, who looks like who appears to be where they're building affordable housing in Newington. It has something to do with that. Said per Pete has something to do with it along Route 3 and Hang Dog Lane and Two Route Highway and other with a former Mayor Gold and his family. A whole bunch of people tied to Whiting Forensics that confessed recorded these things. And with a Bob Chase said a Phil Cololo was involved with them with this. And he's also one of the ones on Two Route Highway. And recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed a whole bunch of judges with drugs and medicines crimes with kids, and with and putting fake drugs and uses and things like that. Has something to do with their roles with a Chris White and people that pretended to know me because they were influenced to it, but by people involved with these judges and people on Two Route Highway and where it runs into Hang Dog Lane. Rick Santapaglione on Hang Dog Lane sought me out to confess that about Brendan Leahy. But there's more than one Brendan Leahy. The father of Brendan Leahy is involved with them with predicate acts, putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to people in databases. Others do that, and then they act towards it. In other words, they use the right to lie, but they don't have the right to lie. and they're changing and faking what's actually recorded, even on campuses, filmed 24/7. I have never seen Eric Burgess on a campus in Central Connecticut State University in my life. He's involved with a bunch of military. Like there's a Parker English who's involved with little tricks with the databases and with the FBI director Robert Luskin. It has something to do with the roles with a Finelli family, also recorded as a stranger. So I've been able to demonstrate he has roles with predicate acts with names along um, Walker Hill Road. Has something to do with the roles with Central Connecticut State University, with a whole bunch of people tied to the name tomorrow, who have roles with proven child abusers, leaders of kids that were first forced, and other natures of organized crime with other countries, and people involved with the Saudi crimes, with whiting forensics too, with a Joshua Julian, and a principal upskirt nature, and some KKK black theme, Confederate black theme, and black white female judges with police forms switching and forging names. Intercities, no. That's how a whole bunch of different murders and body stumping spots and time use /s of them were recorded. For example, in other instances, and confirmed on Facebook, Enzo Fianza. He has roles on Tura Highway too with predicate acts, and right across the street from a South Saviella who was in my fourth grade class. People in my second and third grade class had roles with murders and body dumping spots. People tied to that, and various natures of organized crime. But it was all, these are people with some of them probably had. In other words, these are people attaching fake ties to kids, putting fake things in databases, having their kids pretend things for them. And they're putting it in databases. These are people personally and professionally involved with prosecutors and judges. So when you see the sense and sensibilities of people, it's forgiveness because it is also because other has been communicated for James Madison, and this breaching method has used, and the founders behind him his plan that then George Washington agreed to. Not everyone agreeing to counter a T tax is what caused our founders to get the told us to get the count. They had to force the other counters, the other founders to break the laws syntactically, laws that were against themselves too. Everyone. Why would they leave the slavery laws? I learned at Central Connecticut State University in notes that it was illegal for anyone to have been found out speaking about building infrastructure outside of internationally monitored conversations. And slavery was entrenched in northern colonies and southern colonies. And other was and is communicated for our founders regarding these founding locations, not just in Wethersfield, Connecticut. You have replaced our American history and have self-valued roles with it. And the nature of debate contains quality aspects in nature itself as criminal and citizen's nature / hypercriminal and citizen's nature. So Parker English is a guy who fought in Vietnam, but he's using that difference. He has roles with collusions with Saudi Arabian attackers and themselves used remotely just like him. Fake differences rackets. These are differences rackets and the counters as collusions. These are not legitimate roles, but they're roles with Walker Hill in my name. That's why we need to get them on paper with the rest of the police switching and forging names. Like this detective Samuda too, and former director of the FBI Robert Luskin. His lawyer placed people with spots next to his lawyer's office, like near the Mark Twain house, in the Harry Beecher Stowe house. Increasingly too, this Chuck Casper non-verbally confirmed to me, and former director of the FBI Robert Luskin non-verbally confirmed to me in a 2006 district court case in New Haven. He has roles with Harvard House next to Harvard, next to Fox Connecticut News. A whole bunch of people have roles with their educators since they were growing up with predicate acts, and their roles with their differences, like their religions. I had a Miss Riley, and he sat right next to her, a Mike DeMay, a Miss Riley, and she repeated about the sexual between a girl reportedly that that lived near me at the time, and he repeated that it was Jewish, and then he was yelling about another girl that he was hearing have sex with in a tent, and a whole bunch of people were there. And she was the one with the fatty Skrbowski right before that 2006 district court case. Record express, demonstrate, confirmed, involved next to Fox Connecticut News with predicate acts. And some murders at the time, someone fell from the roof too, reportedly. Even if they made that up, they use the right to lie, but they don't have the right to lie. Has something to do with their roles, demonstrating how time, as the breaching method is demonstrating too, a whole bunch of different countries tied to them, tied roles with them. See, people named Violet and others tied to them have roles with Koreans, with natures of business. Everyone has to have business, but these businesses like psychiatry. But it's also differences records. They have live progressions from past cases, all sides of cases, and the courts themselves and the intelligence tied to them are putting the same sequence shifts as collusion /S with names not even present, including the breaching method as a value replaced. It is a breaching method that is true always about what slavery is about. And we can build on that understanding. But the second we do that, the way nature shows us to, we find other things, others ourselves being blamed for it. And we see that we could discern that being and having been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. You think that suburban homes designed by a breaching method for the torture, extortion, slavery, sickly, distinctly against everyone before America's founders were even born? Still, the alternative to cities, you think that a legitimate voice could justify the way they stand, the way the cost values have been played out, better than free. This is a breaching method that was designed to be a landscape theater. And while everyone's jumping into the breaching method propagated, all self-cultivated roles or sensed by the breaching method. With the foundation to this, above suits and ties, counters and exceptions as collusions too, with the difference. The nature of debate contains quality aspects of nature. That is hyper-evidential. But again, there are styles that have self-value, how originally instilled. This is what witch trials are about, even if they're completely made up. They're about how that breaching method employed use /S, not just there, but other locations of all sides of criminal and civil cases. The court's names, the intelligence names, the news, putting the same fake things that it hides behind and through. Because a breaching method, more than just a breaching method, is one of the things, true always, that those laws were about. That breaching was about a breaching method, that slavery was about. Our founders communicated for us to understand that and how it was entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies before they were born. That communications is replaced. The nature of debate about it is used it's used to measure self-value or the difference. It's used to sense for the breaching method. It's to call it out. This breaching method had since before computers a method of sensing through our own for itself. Because everyone had sustained roles that was only capable of that, because it also replaced the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, action natures. To make that more and more, the only means to cause that is if the self-value roles making hyper additional, more and more criminal insidiousness natures a positive syntactically value as collusions with the negative to keep the identity of the breaching method from being discerned by ourselves. That manifests as a breaching method /S, but everyone else, all groupings and all humanity voicing is the same thing, collusion /S. Otherwise, that body is sensed. Or get incensed. The species body of individual body trade. What do you think?